Fusebox. This is Fusebox number 259, Mirage A Trois. And you should take everything right now with a grain of salt.
You know, I'd say a rather bigly grain, too.
I got it. I got it. Yeah, I got it. It's a little salty, though. Okay, I got it. Here we go. Yeah, I got it. Oh, no. I don't got it.
Ow. Yeah, that's the kind of weight we need to carry these days, friends. Yeah. Welcome in to the aforementioned Fusebox, intimately entitled Mirage A Trois, which I will endeavor to explain momentarily, friends. I'm your wondering aloud with the mute switch on host, Mark Rose, and over there, still counting the votes just to make sure, is the Archbishop of Amplitude, Milt Keynes, everybody.
Oh, thank you kindly. Kind of a saucy title there this time out, bro.
Well, yeah, in a manner, I suppose. Yes, Mirage A Trois endeavors to show our gentle listener three things that were accepted as fact at the time, but as time has gone by, proven to be positively and irrefutably wrong.
Wow. Okay. Are you going to talk about how the Maganoids are actually giant insects masquerading as politicians?
Oh, I thought that was a foregone conclusion. We have a story sent to us by a frequent collaborator and a person who always keeps a third eye peeled for us around here, Jodi Lorimer, concerning an Oregon coastal community that celebrates Exploding Whale Day. And the significance therein is, shall I say, mind-blowing.
You could, but it might prove fatal later.
Also, we've got a new Grindhouse Minute from our buddy 42nd Street Pete. This one uncorks a cannibal film starring Ursula Andress and Stacy Keach from way back in 1978.
I'm in. Does she get all naked and shit?
Well, yes, Mr. Kane, she does. And this one was directed by Sergio Martino, probably better known for, at least certainly by me, by for making some great giallos or Italian murder mysteries. He produced, back in the day, like All the Colors of the Dark, The Strange Vice of Mrs. Ward, and Torso. Among them.
Now, is Ursula naked in all those too?
No. As a matter of fact, she isn't in any of those aforementioned films, sir. This one seems to be the only time they work together.
Well, you know, she was pretty hot in Dr. No. Remember that Bond film?
Well, who could forget that one? It's also the very first 007 film in that long running series. Back in those days, if you did a provocative film, like the one Pete's covering in the upcoming Grindhouse Minute?
Yeah?
Well, you really ran the risk of tanking your career for anything else. Oh, which reminds me that I saw this blaxploitation wonder the other day that starred Lola Falana. Now, many might not remember her. She is still with us, by the way. But in the 1960s and 70s, this gal was on fire. She was, at one point, the highest paid performer in Las Vegas for her variety review, getting $100K a night.
Holy carp!
Yeah. But she was also a pretty darn good actor and was in a famous American film called The Liberation of L.B. Jones, and she got the Golden Globe Award for New Star of the Year for that one. And I bring all this up because the film I watched was called Pop Goes the Weasel, also known as Lady Coco, and has her in some kind of provocative scenes, to say the least, ones that, at least at the time, would have gotten you off-listed from many of the shows that she was a semi-regular on, like Hollywood Palace and Joey Bishop and, stuff like that. Evidently, it didn't. Probably like Ursula here, by the late 70s and early 80s, that sort of canceling was getting rarer and rarer. And soon, it was actually a sort of badge of courage if you had, in fact, done any nude scenes.
Now it's like if you don't do them, you're canceled.
Strange world we live in, Mr. Keynes. When we return, a Mirage A Trois for you.
Gesundheit.
I'll drink to that.
The term grindhouse has a lot of definitions floating around out there, and many are just, speculation, written by folks who, for the most part, weren't anywhere near 42nd Street, or even worse, not born during its heyday. Grindhouse Resurrection Magazine sources its articles and reviews by and from the folks who were very much there, and in many cases, worked on the very films being discussed on its pages. Each issue boasts 96 pages of wall-to-wall ephemera. And you can pick up a copy at 42ndstreetpete.net and see for yourself why it has the special place in history that it truly does. Grindhouse Resurrection Magazine. Available at 42ndstreetpete.net right now.
Once in a while, a beer comes along that changes everything. A beer crafted for the more discerning and sophisticated palate. A beer for true connoisseurs with discriminating tastes. A beer artisan brewed, faithfully following generations-old recipes, using only the finest ingredients from Utah. Yes, once in a while, a beer comes along that changes everything.
What the f***?
This is not that beer. WTF IPA. The name says it all.
Seriously, is that supposed to burn? We've locked Senator Bob Fusky inside this deep-sea diving bell filled with angry razor clams. But it's to prove a point.
No, stop it. Oh, no, oh, no, stop. Stop it. Ow, stop it. Oh, no.
TheFuseboxShow.com. All righty, friends, let's take a dive into the conclusively proven facts that aren't at all factual, but were embraced by the witless society of the time. Why?
Because some stuffed suit told you it was true?
That's right. So, I got to start with this fun historical fact, and this one's starting back a ways, in the 16th century. So, back then, European experts in geography were convinced that California was an island separate from the North American mainland.
Well, now hold on there, bro. There's a lot of folks that still think California is another dimension.
No. You're thinking of Texas.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, maps at the time show a large island on the left of the landmass. So picture Nevada, and part of Oregon and Washington, kind of rounding out the country, right? And then just out there to the left is this island floating. So oddly enough, California continued to appear this way even into the 18th century. There was at the time also a rumor that California was an earthly paradise, like the Garden of Eden or Atlantis.
Isn't that where Jason Momoa is from?
Atlantis?
Yeah.
No, I actually think he was born in Hawaii.
Oh, duly noted.
Yeah. Well, this geographical fantasy was finally put to rest, indisputably, on the 1774 to 1776 expeditions of Juan Bautista de Anza, Curious to note, though, it's been speculated that within 25 million years, Baja California and part of Southern California really will separate from North America due to tectonic plate movement.
Wow. Keith Richards better start preparing now then, since, well, you know, he'll still be around.
And moving up just a wee bit of time to the 19th century, when Marie Curie and her husband Pierre discovered radium. It was one of the biggest finds, obviously, of that century. Of course, Marie later died of anemia thanks to her lifetime exposure to the element, but long before her death, radium was considered a miracle substance that companies just had to include in all of their products. Sadly, like a lot of things today, please pay attention to that, it was believed that radium had miraculous health-benefiting properties.
Like horse dewormer.
Or bleach. So long before the effects of radiation on human cells were fully understood, companies put radium in all sorts of products, including toothpaste, chocolate, and water, all meant for human consumption. This totally healthy practice, believe it or not, continued well into the 1930s. Other uses for radium included placing it in toys and night lights thanks to its luminous properties. The substance emits a faint glow, which was used to illuminate dark rooms without electricity, just, kind of smeared on the walls in there. It was also placed into cosmetics that people slathered all over their faces, in heating pads, and in suppositories.
Well, maybe the light does shine in there.
Radium was even employed to treat impotence, which it likely only worsened. Radium remained a part of everyday life for years and wasn't removed from all products until, wait for it, the 1960s.
What?
Yeah. Because it's science! And friends, at least for me, the cherry on top of this deadly cocktail is smoking, with ads like these from the 1950s.
When you change to Philip Morris, you'll feel better.
Did you say I'll feel better smoking Philip Morris?
Yes, you'll feel better. And here are the reasons why. In case after case, coughs due to smoking disappear. Parched throat clears up. That stale, smoked-out feeling vanishes.
In a repeated national survey, doctors in all branches of medicine, doctors in all parts of the country were asked, "What cigarette do you smoke, doctor?" Once again, the brand named most was Camel. Yes, according to this repeated nationwide survey, more doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette.
Try Camels yourself, the cigarette so many doctors enjoy.
Oh, yeah. That guy ended up in an iron lung just 2 months later.
Well, this whole idea of doctor-endorsed cigarettes is one of the biggest lies ever, perpetrated by tobacco companies and ruthless advertising executives, right? To promote a product so dangerous that it took famous folks of the time like John Wayne and Yul Brynner to talk directly to the consumer and say, "Hey, you're being sold up the river, folks, because, well, I'm dead."
Yeah, but what's different here is that they knew it was harmful and spun it anyway. Poor Marie Curie there, she couldn't have known the outcome of her discovery. Science wasn't far enough along to be able to detect that stuff.
Well, like we've said many times on this program, scientific findings are really only as good as the tool they have to measure something with.
And if they use a rubber chicken to measure it with, well, we're all fucked.
Very nice Zappa reference there, Mr. Keynes. 3 of our listeners will certainly appreciate your obscurata.
See, I'm not just talking to the cheap seats, you dig?
Like a backhoe, Mr. Keynes. So, billion-dollar lawsuits and forced warning labels later, they're still out there, but in greatly diminished numbers, at least in this country.
Yeah. Europe still seems to smoke like a charred Republican. Oh, sorry, did I say that out loud?
Lake of Fire, Mr. Keynes. Lake of Fire.
The show for everybody, but not everybody will like it.
Fusebox.
And speaking of waterfront amusement, let me share with you a most curious story concerning our fine state of Oregon, in which this humble program germinates from. As I said at the top of the show, this piece comes from Jodi Lorimer, who has lived in Oregon a wee longer than I have, certainly, and as a result is keen to some rather unusual history. And this one is an Oregon classic. Our story begins on the coast in November of 1970 in the little seaside community of Florence. Evidently, a sperm whale had beached itself on the coastline there and was, of course, quite dead. And, well, really, really big and dead. This posed somewhat of a logistical problem at the time as to how to properly dispose of this gigantic thing. So after much wringing of hands and probably several cases of Oregon's finest IPA, the decision was made by the Oregon Department of Transportation to remove the carcass by blowing it up with 20 cases of dynamite, which they did. The resulting blast sent huge chunks of blubber throughout the dunes, which for a moment was good for a laugh, until these chunks became blubbery meteoroids and sent the crowd running for their lives.
Flattened by flying blubber. Good times.
Only in Oregon. Now, as a sidebar here, let's just get this straight. The ODOT, the Oregon Department of Transportation, does not do this type of thing any longer.
Well, that's a good plan.
Yeah. But it does get better, though. This entire calamity was captured by on-the-scene KATU news reporter Paul Lindman and is shown kind of as it happened. Later, humor columnist Dave Barry, back in the 1990s, resurfaced this story for his readers, which set off a bit of a spark, but it really took off and created one of the earliest viral videos of the pre-YouTube internet in 2000. Now today, it's an actual holiday, referred to as Exploding Whale Day, and there is a park in Florence named after the whale. The Portland Pickles Baseball Club, this is a real one, I'm not making that up, in 2022 exploded a giant cardboard whale carcass in the middle of the 7th inning.
As you do.
But the crowning glory is that just a few short days ago, Florence Mayor Rob Ward declared from Exploding Whale Memorial Park that November shall be forever forward the month to honor the exploding whale. And so, friends, it was ever thus.
Perfectly normal, perfectly natural.
Thanks again to Jodi for sending that bit of important Oregon history to us. I know I feel somehow more enlightened. And speaking of cannibal gods, Our buddy 42nd Street Pete is back with a fistful of new Grindhouse relics to talk about this season, and the first is a doozy. 1978's Slave of the Cannibal God.
Yummy.
In their language, Sabra May means Mountain of the Cannibal God.
You mean the Pukas are cannibals?
Maybe you're still being chased by the ghost of your cannibals.
That's right! You don't forget the taste of human flesh.
And now it's time for another Grindhouse Minute with 42nd Street Pete.
First installment is a wonderful family film from 1978 called Slave of the Cannibal God. And this was a cannibal film that actually had named stars like Stacy Keach and Ursula Andress. The weird part was I saw this on a triple bill with The Street Fighter, Slave of the Cannibal God, and Return of the Street Fighter. If that didn't make any sense, you're right. That was the pairings on 42nd Street. But anyway, this whole thing goes back to Ursula Andress. His husband is missing on this Isle of Roku, or whatever, Roka. Now it's Roku, I guess. But they decide to go there, and they get Stacy Keach, whose character was living with the cannibals for a while, and he gets drunk, and he goes, "Human flesh, who can forget the taste of it?" And right on, brother. So unfortunately, Stacy doesn't make it till the end of the film. He's dispatched by the evil brother, but the rest of the crew is captured by cannibals. And they even have a cannibal midget in this one, who's a nasty little fucker. And for whatever reason, they strip Ursula naked and paint her white. I know she was an ex-wife of John Derek, and didn't they do the same thing with Bo Derek and Tarzan? They painted her white. So the question behooves me is, he was married to Linda Evans. Did he at one point paint her white too? So we don't know about this. But anyway, there's a whole brouhaha going on, and it seems that this corpse that they have there was basically Ursula's husband, and they put a Geiger counter in his chest, and he's putrefying. So eventually, they escape and do all this other stuff. But there's a backstory because Stacy Keach, was, I guess, hurting for work and went over there. And there was this Italian actor they had to train to basically grab a cobra that was going to strike someone. And the cobras that they used, from what I understand, had their lips sutured shut. But during filming, Ursula Andress sat on a rock, and lo and behold, a real cobra popped up behind her. And if this guy wasn't as quick as he was, she would probably be dead, because the thing went to strike her and he nailed it. So that's Slave of the Cannibal God from 1978.
This has been another Grindhouse Minute with 42nd Street Pete.
So old Stacy Keach was kind of on the skids back then, huh?
Yeah, it'd be a couple of years before he's to score Mike Hammer. So, yeah, you do what you do to survive.
Sounds like he didn't in the film.
No, actually not. Quickly dispatched.
Poor Ursula almost bought the farm with that cobra stunt. Holy carp, man.
One would hope there were precautions taken, but honestly, back in the 1970s, particularly on remote shoots like that, safety wasn't as front of mind as getting the shot was.
Well, thank dog that these days you never have to worry about anything.
Can you say rust? And with that sobering and highly litigious thought, we'll call it a show, friends, but not before thanking our contributors to this edition of Fusebox, 42nd Street Pete, Jodi Lorimer, Sabra May, and Jeff Pollard. Thanks as well to the indeterminate man of mystery, Milt Keynes, for technical assistance and whale wrangling.
The pleasure is always, and folks, don't know if you know it or not.
Even though we mention this every show.
But you can really put a spring in our step and a quarter in the meter by going on over to our Patreon page and signing up to support the show. hell, it's cheap.
Yes, but also, you'll get free stuff, early show access, and a whole bunch more by doing so.
It's patreon.com/The Fusebox Show. It's just that easy.
Yes, it is. And we also want to thank the good folks at Grindhouse Resurrection Magazine for their support and goodwill. Find them at 42ndstreetpete.net for all the details. Of course, thanks to you, friends, for pushing play on this edition of the show. We do so appreciate it, as we know there's so much vying for your attention these days, so we're honored to be in your ears. I have been your shape-shifting humanoid stuck in first gear host, Mark Rose, saying until our next cartoon.